as we move on, we're going to learn an easier way. So maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot how miserable long division was. There's got to be an easier way. There is. It's called synthetic division. And I just flipped the page and I'm on the bottom now. Synthetic division really does simplify long division. It makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do, first of all, something important to note is you just write the coefficients. And if there are any zeros, you write the zeros. And you're going to take away all the variables. You're also, no matter what it is, you're going to use the opposite sign of what you see. Now, here we go. I made the example all worked out for you. They have the steps one by one by one. So it might be good if I could block them off here. Okay, let's look at just the problem. It says use synthetic division to divide x cubed plus 14x squared plus 51x minus 54 by x plus 2. Whew. What is the quotient? What is the remainder? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at their step 1, okay? And that's right here. Don't look at step 3 yet, okay? Just look at step 1. You can see that it says reverse the sign of the plus 2. Now when they say reverse the sign of the plus 2, they're talking about this plus 2 here. So there you go. I'll circle them. They reversed the sign of the plus 2 and they made it a minus 2. And then they put the coefficients of the polynomial. So they put down 1. They put down negative 14. You see where those are coming from? They put down a positive 15. They put down a negative 54. And that came from there. Step 2 is next. Step 2, they said bring down the coefficient of the first. So you see this 1? You literally just bring it down. Well, that's easy enough. So far there's not even any math, right? You just do the opposite, get your coefficients, bring the first one down. Step 3, multiply the coefficient by the divisor. Add to the next coefficient. Alright, let's see how we can do that. So you do 2 times, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Then you combine your like terms to get a negative 16. Okay? So you go down, back up, add. So this would be multiply. This would be carry. This down here is add them up. You keep that process going. Now look at all of these different numbers. I'll walk you through exactly what happens. You ready? You do the opposite here. You bring down the 1. You multiply negative 2 times 1 and you get negative 2. You add down and you get negative 16. You multiply negative 2 by negative 16 and that's how you get a positive 32. You add to get 83. You multiply to get negative 166. You add to get negative 220. This last number here is the remainder. This is always 1 less than what it used to be. So this used to be an x cubed, right? Up here it was an x cubed. Now it's an x squared. This one goes with the x squared. This one goes with the x. This one's your constant. And that one is your remainder. I am going to do the got it problem with you, so you at least have one example and you get to see me work one out. Okay, we have x cubed minus 57x plus 56. Now what I'm going to note here is that we have to have a 0x squared, okay? What is the quotient? What is the remainder? Let's use synthetic division. So you see how I have x minus 7? That means right here I got to use a positive 7 in my little box. Synthetic division is going to be like your best friend this chapter, so get used to it. Now you see all these coefficients? I'm going to do my x cubed coefficient, my x, there you go, I'll even write it down for you. My x cubed coefficient, my x squared coefficient, my x coefficient, my regular number, and then that's it. Alright, draw a line a little below it, and you bring down, you bring down that positive 1. 7 times 1 is 7, right? Now go back up, look at the example above. What do you think you do? You do 0 plus 7 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49. Add these together, you get negative 8. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. Add these together, you get 0. That's your remainder. That's your constant. This one's your x. This one's your x squared. So your answer is 1x squared plus 7x minus 8 with the remainder of 0. Much, much easier than long division. Now if you want to do long division, go for it. I think this is much easier. Your steps, you have 2 steps. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Problem 4. Taking this and applying it to a word problem. The polynomial x to the third plus 7x squared minus 38x minus 240 expresses the volume in cubic inches of the shadow box as shown. So that's a shadow box. And you see it, it's like a box that has a depth to it. What are the dimensions? Hint, the length is greater than the height, or whatever you want to call it, the depth. So what we need to do is we're going to see, or remember, right, that volume equals length, width, and height. Now, the volume is x cubed. I'm just going to write this down for you. That's x cubed plus 7x squared minus 38x minus 240. Right? That's the volume. All of this is the volume. So that's going to equal our length times our width times our height. Now the good news is we do know that the length is, or the width, we'll call it the width, we do know that the width is x plus 5. Okay? And that's the width. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide to figure out the length and the height. We have to divide to figure out the length and the height. So we will take a negative 5 based on this. Okay, we'll use a negative 5 and we'll put that in a little box. Now put all your coefficients over here. 1x cubed, 7x squared, negative 3x, negative 240. Draw a line. Bring down the 1. Now you have 2 steps, everybody. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. So multiply negative 5, add 2. Multiply negative 10, add negative 13. Multiply positive. Oh, this is a 38. That's what I did wrong. Oh boy, can you guys rewind? Can you make this a minus 38 here? Not 3. I carried that down wrong, my fault. That's a 38, which means this is a 38. Okay, my bad, that's a 38, which makes this one a 38, and that's just from the very beginning. There, that'll make it much better. So now when we add, we get negative 48. Multiply, positive 240, add, you get a big remainder of 0. Now that's good. We were hoping for a remainder. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this as 1x squared plus 2x minus 48. So all of that synthetic division will be helpful for when we get the next part here. So we know that the length, the width, and the height can be rewritten with the x plus 5 for the width and the x squared plus 2x minus 48 for the other two. Now what we can do here is we can factor this. So we get x plus 5, x squared plus, factor it, we need 2 binomials. We know 48 is made up of 8 and 6, where we need plus 8 and minus 6. Now look how that helps us. We already knew that this one was the width, right? Now which of these would be the length? I have to go back up here and see how it says the length is greater than the height. That means that this one is the length. That means that this one is the height. So if you're a person who likes to write down steps, here's what we did. Step number 1. We divided the volume by the width. and the width was x plus 5. Step 2. After we divided and we used synthetic division up here, after we used synthetic division and found out what our trinomial was, I'll say we got a trinomial. After we got our trinomial, step 3, we factored our trinomial. After we factored our trinomial, we had to figure out which one was the length. Because the problem said it was the longest. Problem said it was longer, so we used x plus 8 as the length. Part B says, if the width is 15, what are the other dimensions? Well, the width we knew was x plus 5, the length we knew was x plus 8, and the height we knew was x minus 6. They're saying if the width is 15, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to figure out what x is. X would have to equal 10. So the length would be 10 plus 8, or 18 inches. The height would have to be 10 minus 6, or 4 inches. So once you can figure out what x would have to be, you just scroll down and plug it in. You can try the guided on your own. You're going to do the exact same thing. One more item to talk about is what we call the remainder theorem. Now, if you guys don't like plugging in, okay, so what this is going to be is this is going to help you when you don't want to plug in. The remainder theorem says this: if you put whatever you want to plug in, if you put that in and use synthetic division, you're going to get the same answer as if you were to plug it in. Now they have a little theorem here if you want to read about it. I think maybe just doing it might be easier. So they took their polynomial and they put it in synthetic division, right? Now they want to know, if you plug in 3, what would you get? That's what this means. If you plug in 3, what would you get? So they used synthetic division to figure it out. So they put a 3 here, and then they just dropped multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. You see the 182? That would be the remainder. Since it's the remainder, if you can believe it, that's also the answer. So it's also what you get if you plug in 3. So we could write P of 3 equals 182. So a pretty neat concept there. If you guys don't like to plug things in, you can use synthetic division to figure out what it would be. Now if you're still kind of lost, here's what they're trying to tell you. If you have 3 to the 5th power minus 2 times 3 to the 3rd power minus 3 squared plus 2, you get 182. So if you were to plug it in, you would get what it would end up being in the remainder. So it's an option. You don't have to use it, but it is a nice option. Try that on the got it, or the synthetic division here. You would put -4 here. You put all your coefficients here. Don't forget to use 0x squared. See if you can figure out what P of -4 is.